know. Hours and hours of listening to Coach Coughenour talk about his children. His grandchildren. I remember being here at Chris's wedding and seeing the glow on his face. And it was obvious the pride he had. It was also obvious that us Baptists can't hold a light to a long wedding ceremony. Tad, your braveness in battling cancer, how he admired it. Your artistic ability. John, I got to tell my favorite story you tell on you. He was coaching you in basketball. Red Cleveland. Said on the way to the game, John said, you know, Dad, he probably hadn't scored a basket all year. Said, you know, Dad, I don't know if I'm going to play basketball after this. I'm really tired of it. Things aren't going well. Probably 11 or 12 years old. Said John scored a basket that night. Said on the way home, he said, you know, Dad, I don't know if I want to play for the Knicks or the Pistons. Oh, goodness. He didn't just teach us about ball or running. He taught us about family. He taught us about doing what's best for a young person, no matter what anybody else thought. He could care less. He told me many times whenever we would be trying to make a decision on disciplining someone, Clark, you know, we might be the only thing he's got. He taught me to treat people fairly, not the same. He taught me to coach people, not the game. Never too high, never too low. Never quit. We all have mentors. I always thought coaches was Coach Puckett, who he coached with at the very first. He had such a great admiration for Coach Puckett. I remember we were talking one day and he said, now I remember going scouting with Coach Puckett and he pulled out a cigar and I went, Coach! He could not believe Coach Puckett would smoke a cigar because he held him in such a high light. But I always thought that's probably where he learned to deal with, or where he patterned himself at. A lot of people thought Dan Crow, and Dan had so much to learn from too, but I always thought Coach Puckett was his hero, his mentor. We all have to have heroes in our life. When Coach was inducted in the TWSWA Hall of Fame, I wrote him a letter. That was in 1994. I said, Coach, you know, I never really realized it until a few years ago, but your induction into the Hall of Fame is a great, great honor. But what has meant more to me is the fact that I probably spent 30, 35 years looking for parts of fathers in different people. And what an important part of a father who served to me. He handled it as always. I saw him about 2 days later. He said, nice letter, Clark. But it wasn't just to me. It wasn't Bobby Hill. What just to me was Tom Williams, Mark Brady, a whole multitude of you out here. He inspired others. I cannot imagine a sports writer or another coach showing up at my funeral. I can't imagine another coach ever coming over and mowing my yard. But that's what Tom Coughenour did to people. And he was such a great role model. George and I were talking last night. He said, you know, I never heard him say a bad word. He said one day he called me and said, I'll see you later, Jorge. So I went home and said, Barbara, what in the world did I do to make him mad at me? Barbara said, George, you dummy. That's George in Spanish. He taught us to never quit learning. I feel partly responsible for him adopting what he used to call his Eddie Durham socks, which were none. He taught us to find good in everybody, that it was okay to be different, that we treated people fair, that we treated people with respect, that the important part about the fishing and golfing didn't have anything to do with the results. It was the friendships. It was the journey. He taught us that there should be no such word as prejudice. Unless you were from Johnson City. The final thing he said to me when I said, Coach, we play. After talking to him for a few minutes in the hospital last Wednesday night and getting no response, I said, Coach, we got the Hilltoppers Friday. He leaned up and said, go get them. He coached All-Americans, but he coached guys and ladies who only their mother could think was good the same way. He taught us, once a friend, you were always a friend. He taught us loyalty. It's very obvious when people came in from North Carolina to do yard work for him. The outpouring of people, there was more food there than I've ever seen every time you went over. I took him a carrot cake real soon after he got sick. He complained because he said he was going to have to work it up. Next week I took him a bag of carrots and threw them at him and told him I didn't want to hear him whining anymore. Coach, mentor, father, friend, every word that a man should want to end up being important in his life. Christian, teacher, Tom Coughenour was. He used to talk a lot about the legends. Before a game, Link Jarvis and I talked about this the other night. He'd say, Clark, the legends they're watching, the ghosts of Dominics Catholic, they're seeing the game tonight. He saw our first four this year. I have no doubt that the legends have been joined by one of the all-time great legends. Family, runners, friends, take no doubt. See, we're guys, we don't do this kind of thing. Tom Coughenour loved you all greatly. He showed it in the example of life that he gave us. At 7 o'clock tonight, I'm sure that he's going to join Bobby Dodd, Bob Cyphers, so many legends of Dominics Bennett High School, because if they had a legends table in heaven, they've had a seat ready for them. If they had a legends table of fathers, they had a seat ready for them. If they had a legends table of husbands, they had a seat ready for them. There's one beside him too. He wouldn't have it any other way. We weren't ready. He was. Which is why I never want to see him again.